Have you ever sat down at your incredibly expensive, immensely powerful computer?
Staring at a spinning wheel.
Right, just staring at a freezing loading screen.
Yeah.
And you get this feeling that this machine is somehow holding you back.
Oh, yeah.
Like you have this creeping suspicion that modern technology with all its, sleek, colorful, highly polished interfaces is, well, it's acting more like a dumbed down toy than a machine of raw power.
It's a very common frustration.
It is. And if you're nodding your head right now, maybe staring at a stalled progress bar as we speak, you are exactly where you need to be for today's deep dives.
Absolutely.
But really quick, before we get into it, I need to ask your favor. Please take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us keep bringing you these deep dives.
It makes a huge difference.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Today we're reviewing a new, ultra-long, incisive, and frankly fascinating ebook. It's titled Unix Workstations Protocols for Macho Processing.
Written by Conrad Riker.
By Conrad Riker, yeah. And I want to say right up front, to truly grasp the raw power we're discussing today, you really need to check out Amazon Kindle and Google Play Books to buy the book for yourself.
You'll want the full context for sure.
You definitely will. And you're also going to want to follow the author at Conrad and Riker on his Substack. That's conradriker.substack.com.
It is definitely a read that leaves a an immediate impression.
Oh,
He does not pull a single punch from the opening page.
That is the understatement of the century.
Yeah.
So let me give you the overview of our topic and our mission for today's deep dive. This ebook is absolutely not your standard IT manual.
Not even close.
You aren't just going to learn the syntax for how to configure a networked firewall or partition a hard drive. What Riker has written here is a highly unconventional survival guide.
It's intensely aggressive.
Extremely. He merges hardcore command line Unix system administration with evolutionary psychology, men's rights advocacy, and red-pilled manosphere philosophy.
It's quite the combination.
It really is. So our mission today is to completely unpack his core thesis. We're going to look at his argument for understanding the history and the raw mechanics of our computational institutions before they were, and I'm using his exact words here, captured by feminists and Marxists.
And right here is where I think we need to step in and set a very clear boundary for today's discussion.
Yeah, please do.
I want to explicitly tell you, the listener, that this source material contains highly politically charged content.
Very much so.
It spans gender dynamics, biological essentialism, and some very intense modern culture wars. So I need to emphasize strongly that neither of us here is taking a side on these cultural issues.
Right.
We are not endorsing the viewpoints or the politics of the author.
Exactly. Our role in this deep dive is strictly to impartially report.
To analyze and convey the ideas.
Yeah, the fascinating connections contained in Riker's text. We are exploring how he links complex command line protocols to human biology and societal structures, strictly as analysts.
Just examining a piece of media.
Exactly. So let's start where Riker starts. The interface itself.
The padded room.
The padded room, right. He introduces this concept he calls the terminal mindset, which is built on the complete rejection of something he terms computational emasculation.
Which is a heavy phrase.
It is. He kicks off the book with a premise that modern computing has essentially become a padded room. He argues that graphical user interfaces, GUIs,
the operating systems we use every single day.
Right, with the clicking mice, the drag and drop windows, the colorful desktop icons. He says these are intentionally designed to infantilize operators.
Yeah, and to understand why he hates the GUI so much, we have to look at what a graphical user interface actually does on a technical level.
Break that down for us.
It is an abstraction layer. So beneath every single pretty button you click, there is a complex string of text commands that the kernel actually reads.
But the GUI hides all of that.
It completely hides it. It translates your physical mouse clicks into those hidden commands. Riker argues that this translation layer rewards mindless button clicking over actual cognitive brain power.
Like treating the user like a toddler playing with shape sorter blocks.
Exactly, rather than an engineer operating heavy machinery.
He gives a really vivid personal example of this in the text. He mentions a former colleague who was tasked with parsing through massive daily data reports.
The copy-paste guy.
The copy-paste guy. According to Riker, this colleague was wasting 3 solid hours every single day just opening windows, clicking drop-down menus, copying data, opening a new window, pasting it.
Manual labor disguised as tech work.
That's exactly what he calls it.
Right.
Until Riker sat him down and taught him how to simply use the terminal to pipe the output between commands.
And the concept of piping is fundamental to Unix.
Right.
It's fundamental to Riker's whole philosophy of efficiency. For those who don't spend their days in a command line interface, piping, it's represented by that vertical bar character on your keyboard.
Yeah, the pipe symbol.
Right. It's a way to connect different mini programs together. Imagine you have 3 separate workers in an assemble line. Instead of worker A taking a box, doing his job, putting it on the floor, and waiting for worker B to walk over and pick it up.
Which is basically what clicking through menus does.
Exactly. Piping acts like a high-speed conveyor belt. The raw output of the first command feeds instantaneously into the input of the second command.
And then into the third.
Seamlessly. Instantaneously. 0 manual repetition.
So he saves this guy 3 hours a day just by stringing text commands together. But Riker doesn't just view this as a productivity hack.
No, he views it as an escape from computational emasculation.
Right, because that emasculation, in Riker's terms, is that visceral frustration when a critical system completely freezes. Your mouse won't move, screen goes white.
You're helpless.
Completely helpless.
Yeah.
And why does it freeze? Because the system is relying on flashy, resource-heavy GUI applications instead of raw, lightweight terminal commands.
For Riker, typing a command in a black terminal window is a direct assertion of will.
Unfiltered.
Unfiltered. Clicking a button is practically begging the system for permission.
He literally says, real men command. They don't drag icons around like a child.
It's a very aggressive framing.
It is, and it leads directly into his complete rejection of work-life balance.
Right.
If you are using a computer to exert will, then your job isn't a desk gig, it's a battlefield. He frames real productivity as predation.
Predation.
Yeah. And he leans into Parkinson's law to justify this.
Parkinson's law is fascinating here. It was coined in 1955 by Cyril Northcote Parkinson, and it just states that work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion.
So if you have an hour to write an email, it takes an hour.
But if you give someone 5 minutes, they get it done in 5. Riker turns this into a mandate for ruthless prioritization.
Because comfort breeds mediocrity.
Exactly. He believes generous deadlines just make people weak.
And he backs this up with how he wrote this very book.
Oh, the deadline story.
Yeah, he says his publisher gave him a comfortable 6-month deadline for this massive technical manuscript. But he claims he wrote 90% of it in the final 3 weeks.
He intentionally procrastinated.
Just to force himself into a corner. He compares this self-imposed pressure cooker to Navy SEALs.
This is where you see that military-grade intensity applied to white-collar work. He points out that SEALs don't get a 2-week corporate retreat to brainstorm a hostage rescue.
They don't form a consensus.
No, they get 12 hours, they look at blueprints, assign roles, and execute. Extreme constraints force brilliance.
And he maps this onto IT infrastructure too. The CERN sysadmin.
Right, the Large Hadron Collider.
Yeah, this guy had to troubleshoot a cascading failure in the particle accelerator's data systems. Riker details a grueling 72-hour coding sprint. No sleep.
No going home for dinner.
Just extreme pressure. Riker's arguing that pressure, not HR-proof pacing, yields world-changing results.
He's making the case that comfort is the enemy of competence. That CERN admin treated a server outage like a life-or-death crisis.
And then, he makes a very sharp pivot.
A massive pivot.
He takes this pressure cooker environment and maps it directly onto biological asymmetry. He uses it to explain how he believes men and women fundamentally process stress differently.
This is where the evolutionary psychology takes center stage. He anchors this biological argument using Dr. Robert Edwards.
The Nobel winner for IVF research.
Yes, in vitro fertilization. Riker interprets the reality of IVF quite starkly. He argues that female biology is the absolute non-negotiable bottleneck in human reproduction.
Because the population needs women to grow.
Exactly. Because of this, Riker argues male biology is technically optional.
Highly replaceable. He actually calls men spare server racks.
Spare server racks, right. If one burns out, the network survives if you have a backup. He claims modern society pathologizes men for recognizing this harsh asymmetry.
So how does this play out in the workplace for him?
He posits a pervasive double bind for men.
A double bind.
Yeah, a psychological situation where you get conflicting messages and no matter what you do, you're penalized. He uses the story of Jim to illustrate this.
Oh man, the story of Jim is wild.
Yeah.
So Jim is a Michigan auto plant foreman. He's going through a terrible, messy divorce, but he refuses to bring it up at work.
He's stoic.
Just keeps his head down, runs the line.
Yeah.
But Jim gets written up by HR for insufficient empathy and creating a cold team environment.
Penalized for stoicism.
Exactly. Then Jim gets replaced. And the new guy, during a massive supply chain crisis where the line actually stops, this new guy breaks down and starts crying on the factory floor.
And what happens?
He gets outright fired for unprofessional emotionality.
Riker uses this to highlight the trap. He supplements it with sociological data cited from Berkeley, claiming men in Fortune 500 companies who display vulnerability suffer a 22% career penalty.
Wow.
Less promotions, loss of peer respect. Conversely, he claims the data shows women gain a 9% boost for the exact same behavior.
Because it's viewed as authentic leadership.
Right, so Riker's interpretation is that men are damned if they are stoic and fired if they are vulnerable, expected to be emotionless machines, but punished for lacking warmth.
So what's his solution for men caught in this trap?
Back to the terminal mindset.
Reject the HR trap completely.
Anchor entirely to raw, undeniable technical competence. He points to Ken Thompson for this.
The co-creator of Unix.
Yes. Riker paints a cinematic picture of Thompson at Bell Labs in the 70s facing a catastrophic kernel panic.
And a kernel panic is basically the worst case scenario.
Absolute worst. The core brain of the computer encounters an error so unrecoverable it halts everything to prevent hardware destruction.
The ultimate crisis.
And Riker describes Thompson fixing this system-ending panic while chain-smoking unfiltered cigarettes in a windowless room.
No emotional check-ins.
No team-building exercises, just man, machine, and logic. Riker's baseline is, if the C code compiles and the system runs flawlessly, your feelings are irrelevant. Competence is the only shield against disposability.
It's a relentless baseline. So if the GUI is a padded room for the user, how does he view the macro-level landscape? Because in the second section, he applies this logic to corporate warfare.
The Oracle versus Google lawsuit?
Yeah, he looks at that decade-long legal battle over Java APIs, and he doesn't see a legal dispute. He sees a Roman gladiator match.
It's a perfect lens for his deep cynicism about corporate ethics. So, context for the listener. Oracle sued Google for billions, claiming Google stole their copyrighted Java APIs to build Android.
And an API is basically a standardized menu.
Right, like at a restaurant. The menu tells you what you can order without you needing to know how to cook it. Google used Oracle's Java menu to make writing Android apps easier.
And Oracle screamed theft, dragged them through courts for years. But Riker unpacks the hypocrisy on both sides.
Right.
Oracle screams theft, yet Riker points out Oracle's own database empire was built on SQL,
Structured query language.
which was developed by IBM. Oracle basically copied it and commercialized it.
They built their house on shared blueprints, but tried to charge Google for using their window designs.
Exactly. And then on the other side, Google,
Playing the open source white knight.
saying APIs must be free for innovation. But simultaneously, Google used Android to create a massive proprietary walled garden, tight control over the platform to lock out competitors.
So Riker concludes that in tech, principles bend to power. APIs aren't sacred texts about open communication.
They're weapons, tools for market dominance. And what's wild is how Riker transitions from this macro-level warfare over billions of dollars straight down to how a single Unix system manages internal processes.
The completely fair scheduler, the CFS,
Tell us about the CFS.
designed by Ingo Molnar for the Linux kernel. To understand Riker's obsession here, you need to know what a scheduler does. A CPU can only do a few things at once.
But you might have 100 programs running.
Browsers, updates, music, all begging for attention. So the scheduler plays traffic cop. Riker compares the CFS algorithm to a Tokyo subway dispatcher,
During rush hour.
treating CPU time like a finite cake at a birthday party. It relies on virtual runtime to track exactly how much CPU time a process owes the system.
So in theory, every process gets an equal slice.
In theory. But the system allows for priority flags. Critical system functions can cut the line and demand seconds of cake before low-priority processes get a crumb.
The fairness is an illusion governed by strict hierarchy.
Exactly. And here is where Riker leaps straight into human anthropology.
It's a crazy transition.
He argues against what he calls naive progressive assumptions, the idea that computer processes, or humans in a society, will naturally play nice and self-regulate without rigid boundaries.
To illustrate this, he shares a story about a junior sysadmin.
Who tried to democratize the servers.
Yeah, this kid goes in and strips away all the priority flags. He tells the system that a background print job is just as important as the database managing the company's money.
And the result was catastrophe.
Instant catastrophe. Payroll completely stalled. Why? Because without a hierarchy, a handful of employees streaming high-def cat videos during lunch consumed 90% of the bandwidth.
The system treated cat videos with the same respect as paychecks.
So Riker uses system administration as a direct metaphor for societal structure.
Assuming all processes are equal creates the same inefficiencies as pretending men and women have identical cognitive architectures, or that all societal roles are interchangeable.
A system without hierarchy is destined to fail. And when a process doesn't respect boundaries, Riker introduces the ultimate equalizer,
Sig kill.
sick kill. His writing here is poetic in its brutality. He describes a rogue process hoarding CPU cycles as a drunk alpha gorilla tearing apart the server room.
And you don't open a dialogue window with a drunk gorilla?
No, you don't try to negotiate graceful degradation, asking the program to kindly save its data and close.
Graceful degradation takes time, which the rogue process is stealing. So you use sick kill. Signal number 9 tells the kernel to terminate the process instantly.
With extreme prejudice, it's erased from existence.
And he backs this up with high-frequency Wall Street trading systems.
Algorithms making millions of trades a second.
Right. If a subsystem lags, the master server executes a sig term, a polite request to stop. If no response, it fires a sig kill at just 500 microseconds of latency.
Half of 1,000th of a second.
By being that ruthless, they maintain 4 nines of uptime, 99.99%. They never crash because they kill weak links instantly.
And Riker applies this to anthropology. He argues functional human societies have historically required sig-kill mechanisms to terminate egalitarian fantasies.
When survival is on the line, democracy is a liability.
He cites Viking raiding parties. Out on the ocean facing storms, the steersman had absolute unquestioned authority, a dictatorship built on survival.
Questioning the steersman made you a rogue process.
Dealt with immediately. He also references pre-industrial societies like the Kungsan and the Kalahari.
Right.
They might have egalitarian customs during times of plenty, but the moment a crisis hits a drought, predator attack leadership instantly condenses into an authoritarian structure.
So his bold thesis is that the Unix kernels need to send a sig kill mirrors human anthropology. A society or server that can't ruthlessly terminate a threat will collapse under misplaced empathy.
It's a profoundly heavy perspective,
Aye.
which leads us into how he views the modern internet. He drops all pretenses of the information superhighway. The internet is a scorched earth war zone.
He brings up terrifying real-world cyber warfare examples.
Starting with Stuxnet.
The defining moment of cyber warfare. A malicious worm, likely US and Israeli, that physically destroyed Iranian nuclear facilities.
It crossed from digital to physical.
It manipulated programmable logic controllers on uranium centrifuges, made them spin out of control and tear themselves apart while sending fake data back saying everything was fine.
He also talks about BGP hijacking.
Border Gateway Protocol, the internet's postal routing system. He cites an incident where a Chinese ISP accidentally broadcast the wrong routing tables.
And because BGP assumes trust between networks,
Exactly. That tiny error rerouted 15% of global internet traffic through Beijing servers for 18 agonizing minutes.
and then there's the KRACK Wi-Fi vulnerabilities.
A flaw in the WPA2 protocol. The math keeping wireless data safe was proven flawed.
Riker looks at Stuxnet, BGP, KRACK, and concludes a network security is only as strong as its stupidest, most optimistic assumption.
He has zero patience for trust-based routing. He argues IT departments are weak because they rely on flashy security apps from vendors instead of understanding the metal.
He says true security requires manually configuring TCP wrappers. What does that actually mean?
It's a host-based networking access control list, a low-level way to filter network access. Instead of an AI firewall with a pretty interface, you open a raw text file and manually type out allowed IP addresses.
Tedious but absolute network sovereignty.
If you trust a vendor software blindly, you've already lost the war.
And when it comes to analyzing massive data generated by these networks, finding hackers in the noise, Riker praises ancient text manipulation tools like AWK and Sated.
SCDD stream editor?
He says they slice through terabytes of data faster than a katana through rice paper.
Evocative image. So said, most people use CTRLF in Word to find something. Said doesn't even open the file.
It just processes the stream.
Like an automated assembly line worker. As raw data flies past at blinding speeds, it recognizes patterns and alters or extracts text on the fly.
He gives an example of a sysadmin dealing with a massive server attack. 10,000 lines of text per second. The server is drowning.
And the sysadmin weaponized a complex ESD command.
Filtered out all the noise instantly, distilling the flood into actionable intel. Meanwhile, a team of Java developers tried writing an elegant, object-oriented solution, and it completely choked and crashed after 2 hours.
And here comes the biological justification again.
Yep.
He claims men are biologically optimized to wield these tools, citing NIH brain scans claiming the male prefrontal cortex has 12% more neural volume for systemic thinking.
Which is a highly controversial interpretation of that data.
Extremely controversial. But Riker argues this volume allows men to process spatial temporal patterns 19% faster. He frames the terminal as uniquely suited to male cognitive architecture under pressure.
Which leads right into risk, testosterone, and leadership. He looks at high finance. A Harvard study tracking Wall Street traders found those with higher morning testosterone executed 30% more decisive trades.
Calculated predatory strikes yielding higher returns.
But he applies this to tech leadership. He says the tech industry secretly rewards this biology while publicly denying it.
He contrasts Dennis Muhlenberg and Elon Musk to prove this.
The former CEO of Boeing versus Musk.
Right. Muhlenberg was fired after congressional hearings over the 737 MAX crashes. During hearings, he was sweating, choked up, displayed deep emotional distress, vulnerability.
And then Musk.
Handling SpaceX Starship explosions,
Yeah.
massive Mars delays. Musk shrugs it off, stays stoic, almost amused, pushes engineers to iterate faster, and secures billions in Pentagon contracts.
Riker argues that male CISOs and tech founders get massively higher salaries because they harness this biological risk calculus.
They don't cower behind compliance checklists. When under attack, they check kill switches, not HR policies.
He cites VC stats claiming Palo Alto investors inject 150% more capital into male-founded cybersecurity startups.
He calls it a rational market response, not systemic bias. When billions are on the line, investors want biological aggression, not consensus.
Wow. Okay, let's keep going. He moves to physical hardware. The stories here are visceral. Talks about hardware intimacy,
The Tsubame supercomputer in Japan.
running complex earthquake simulations. The processors hit 100 degrees Celsius, boiling point. Silicon about to melt down.
In a cloud environment, automated safeguards would throttle the CPU or shut it off to prevent a fire.
But the sims were critical, so the sysadmin's jury-rigged liquid nitrogen cooling feeds directly into the server racks, intentionally overclocking the system past physical limits.
Overclocking forces a chip to run faster than designed, generating immense heat. Because they took that dangerous risk, the models completed in time and saved lives during the next earthquake.
He links this to the praxa of masculine equilibrium.
His code of conduct for interacting with machines.
True power comes from monitoring the lowest levels, watching the /proc/stat directory.
Which is the raw heartbeat of a Linux machine, real-time kernel stats.
He talks about rewriting kernel parameters on the fly. He shares a script called the swappiness sentry
Which dynamically adjusted memory usage on a server farm.
and saved Boeing $9 million in hardware costs.
Swappiness is when a computer runs out of RAM and writes data to the slow hard drive. Too much swapping, the system crawls.
By managing this ratio aggressively at the kernel level, he squeezed millions in performance out of existing hardware.
And he insists this deep optimization requires a solitary, intense focus that is biologically male.
Referencing Oxford MRI scans this time.
Asserting female brains excel at social networking, but falter in 90-minute solitary deep work sprints where male brains thrive. Rewriting the kernel is like forging metal.
Which brings us to a wildly controversial comparison. Mapping core network protocols to gendered communication styles.
TCP/IP versus UDP.
So TCP, Transmission Control Protocol, is a structured handshake. Computer A sends data, computer B acknowledges a receipt. If no acknowledgement, it resends, ordered and logical.
And Riker compares TCP to mail negotiation, structured, verified facts.
But UDP, User Datagram Protocol, is connectionless. It fires packets into the void without waiting for confirmation. Used for live video where speed beats accuracy.
And he likens UDP to female communication patterns.
Citing Deborah Tannen, claiming women communicate to express feelings without requiring logical resolution, firing into the void.
He weaponizes this with a Cisco case study. When Cisco forced data centers to stop using UDP for telemetry and enforced strict TCP verification, error rates plummeted 56%.
He argues enforcing structured mail logic makes systems more stable. And he applies this containment philosophy to virtualization.
Compartmentalize weakness, like a hypervisor quarantines malware.
A hypervisor chops a physical server into virtual machines. If one gets a virus, the hypervisor acts as an iron wall. Quarantines it so the whole server doesn't crash.
He contextualizes this within a critique of corporate therapy culture.
Emotional vulnerability is malware.
Should be mercifully quarantined so it doesn't affect team productivity. He uses the 2015 Etsy Cyber Monday crash as a metaphor.
Peak traffic day, one NGINX container imploded due to a config error.
Lacked hypervisor isolation, the failure cascaded, took down checkout, cost $1.7 million a minute.
Riker argues this happens when society fails to contain emotional weakness. One person's breakdown crashes the system.
He backs it up with GitHub attempting consensus-driven code rules, prioritizing feelings over efficient code.
Development speed dropped 41%. Forcing empathy on men wired for results is, he says, like putting a race car engine in a garbage truck.
Destroys the engine, truck isn't any faster.
His motto is, apologize never, shove first. So what happens when the hypervisor fails? When it all goes wrong?
Forensics and recovery, the command line dynasty.
He sets the scene of a ransomware attack at Petrohack Industries. Russian hackers locked down a Unix geological database holding billions in oil data.
Sysadmin Mike Rodriguez executes the triple T protocol.
Triage, trace, transplant. Break that down.
Pure forensic discipline. Triage, sever the network connection, stop the bleeding. Trace, dive into raw logs. He finds the malware had a 72-hour latency period.
So the backups from the last 3 days are infected.
Exactly. Transplant. He retrieves a clean, air-gapped backup from 96 hours ago.
Air gap meaning physically disconnected from the network. Untouchable.
Wipes the infected servers. Transplants clean data, saves millions in ransom. Riker contrasts this unemotional discipline with corporate empathy.
Riker's story about the female CFO.
Right. He was an external consultant investigating her, found she embezzled $6 million.
She gets caught, breaks down crying in the boardroom, blames workplace stress, and the corporate board actually hesitated.
Debated sending her to sensitivity training instead of calling the FBI.
Riker bypassed their empathy, demanded bit-for-bit disk clones over laptops, cracked the encryption, and proved she bought 3 luxury vacation homes.
He states, men's tears invite contempt. Treats servers like crime scenes, not therapy couches.
Which leads to his philosophy on the heroic burden. Optimizing systems mirrors the masculine imperative to protect the tribe in crisis. No vulnerability allowed.
Like the Iraq War story. Fallujah, 2004.
A ruggedized Unix workstation rebooting during mortar attacks. Marines coordinating medevacs.
The server crashes, needs a file system check. Flask doesn't negotiate.
FSCK. It painstakingly finds orphaned files and repairs directories. You can't rush it or yell at it.
The Marines maintain disciplined cover fire while the cold logic of Flak repaired routing tables, the ultimate synthesis of stoicism and computational logic.
He also praises civilian engineers. Tanaka-san in Tokyo during a massive flood.
Water rising, threatening the ground floor server racks.
Corporate protocol said, evacuate. Wait for grief counselors. Tanaka-san ignored HR.
Stayed behind, karate chopped through office drywall to jury rig heavy SCSI cables up elevator shafts.
Frantically migrating 6 petabytes of irreplaceable data.
For Riker, this physical risk is the essence of civilization, maintained by men willing to risk their lives to keep microchips dry.
But his conclusion is deeply pessimistic. Society treats these men as disposable.
The historical tapestry. The Somme battlefield in World War I. PAL's battalions sent into machine gun fire, 90% casualty rates.
The 11 men who died on the Deepwater Horizon rig, forgotten by media focusing on the oil spill.
Modern stats, too. Fathers in Massachusetts winning only 13.5% of custody cases. 70% of unsheltered homeless are men.
Riker believes the world expects men to die silently doing dangerous work, or buries their struggles in legal paperwork.
But his ultimate solution is the terminal. The command line doesn't care about your feelings or social standing.
The ultimate meritocratic dynasty. It mathematically rewards competence and punishes hesitation.
By mastering terminal protocols, said kernel compilation men physically reforge neural pathways.
Burn away societal programming telling them to be vulnerable. If you control the root access, you control the reality.
A deeply cynical, aggressive synthesis of system administration and sociological grievance.
It really forces you to confront how you interact with technology. So let's summarize. Riker's book, Unix Workstations Protocols for Macho Processing, is an unapologetic merging of command line supremacy and evolutionary biology.
Challenging the reader to reject the mouse and view the terminal as a battleground for survival.
And as we wrap up, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final provocative thought.
Something to explore on your own.
Riker argues the foundational architecture of our digital world was built on binary, ruthless, zero-sum logic. Sig-kill, hardware limits.
But the tech industry is pushing toward fluid, consensus-driven, AI-mediated environments.
So will these underlying legacy protocols eventually clash with modern collaborative philosophies?
Can a system built on brute force ever truly be governed by empathy? Or will the metal always demand a master?
A phenomenal, slightly terrifying question for the next time your screen freezes. All right, that is our deep dive for today. Please remember to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss future deep dives.
And check out the source material directly.
Yes, you need to purchase the ebook on Amazon Kindle and Google Play Books. And finally, for more advanced system internal dissections, make sure you follow the author at Conrad N. Riker on his Substack, conradriker.substack.com.
Thanks for listening.
We will see you on the next deep dive.